Welcome back to this month's Roundtable, your all-in-one comprehensive view of what's happening across the real estate industry, straight from some of the industry's earliest technology adopters, foremost experts in technology, marketing, brokerage, government policy, finance, construction, and cybersecurity. As always, this is a three-part show. Part one, introductions, what's new in each of our different segments, sectors, business sectors. Part two, sector focus. What is the shift that's occurring and how can you be positioned to take advantage of it? And then part three, what is that critical need to know tactic from each of the expert Roundtable hosts to help you outpace your competition? I'm Andreas Senie, founder, CRE Collaborative, brokerage owner, and technology growth strategist for both the nonprofit and for-profit sectors. And joining me this month is none other than Rebekah Carlson, founder and CEO, Carlson Integrated, brokerage owner, and past president of NICAR, as well as Maria Kowalik, SVP, Director of Business Development at Inland Green Capital, all things finance, and recent recipient of the Globe Street Women of Influence 2022 Award in the finance executive section. Congrats. I want to hear more on that. And in addition, Chris Abel, our all things construction membership director at Connecticut Associated Builders and Contractors. Darren Hayes will be joining us the second half, while Dan Wagner and Saul Klein are off enjoying the holiday. They'll be with us next month. All right, guys. Welcome back. Super excited for this month's show, this month's segment. This should be fun. I think it's our first show without Saul. So let's see. Let's see how we do. And that is to say, it's our first one together at this roundtable without Saul. Maria, tell me more. What is happening in the finance world?
Things are busy, and like you said, with that award that I was recently honored with, it just goes to prove how much work has been done lately, and because you don't just get those for doing nothing. So it's been a busy time. This has been an incredibly busy summer. Especially since a lot of in-person events are beginning to ramp up again. And so I've been making presentations and trying to educate the world on CPACE and how it works and what it does and why it's beneficial to commercial property owners. And so my work has been cut out for me, and it's been great.
Well, and you've been awarded for it. So things are going well, clearly. I mean, given the shift we're headed into, this economic shift, getting to that bottom liner, that fine-tuning your capital stack with CPACE is a no-brainer. And super excited to come back to this. Speaking of capital stacks and construction, Chris, what's the latest on your side of the fence? Construction.
There's a lot going on. It's funny when every once in a while, it seems like it takes forever for us to come back around, for a show for the next month. But for some reason, all of a sudden we kind of blinked. I was like, oh, wow, we have another show here. So that means a lot is going on. I've been speaking to a lot of different contractors and kind of getting out there as the weather has started to cool down a little bit the past couple of weeks. I mean, still dealing with obviously the long-term issues with the labor shortages and the materials and all that stuff. But I've spoken to a lot of contractors over the past several weeks, and surprisingly finding out that many more than expected, or many more than I think some of them are surprising themselves financially year over year. They're looking at a better 2022 than they did in maybe a 2021. And we could talk about it in a little bit, but as far as how they got there and how they kind of realized those things, I've gotten several different answers. So everyone seems busy, and they're staying busy with smaller projects if they don't have the big ones, and then they're just waiting for the big ones to kind of start up. So
that sounds great. I was going to point out here in Shelton and everywhere, it seems like construction crews are up and at it. They're out there doing things. Mm-hmm. So I was excited to talk to you. And like you just pointed out, it's funny. I look at my calendar and I went, wow, it's been another month.
Yeah.
This is like my monthly, oh my God, it's another month has passed by this year. Yeah. But so I'm super excited to talk more about the better outlook for 2022 for construction, because we need those deliverables. We need that supply. And Becca, as far as the marketing positioning of it all, I mean, perception is everything. How are things on your side of the fence?
Well, it's often said that perception is reality, but there is also the factor that reality can become perception over time. And the marriage between those two elements is the most important part of having a business, and the most important part of commercial real estate property ownership, management, leasing, financing. Because if the story you're telling isn't the story of who you actually are, then you're not going to go very far. And our reputations precede us in this industry, and they stay forever. So it's been a really neat kind of month for me to analyze what's been going on with some of my clients. I have a number who are kind of small to medium sized owner clients, and it's been exciting to watch their leasing really ramp up. And we've been telling stories about their properties for a long time, and they actually have been getting activity over these summer months and going into the fall. From a leasing standpoint, from an investment standpoint, my clients who are looking for properties to buy, it's been pretty quiet. And we're hoping that there will be an end of the year little bit of a ramp up, but it is very possible that there's, just kind of a little bit of a slowdown right now.
Is that an inventory slowdown, or is that they're waiting to see what bigger factors, what other paradigm shifts are happening?
I think commercial real estate investors are by far traditionally conservative. And so there is a wait and see approach. There's no one's holding forcing somebody to spend money. They don't have to. They don't have to go out and deploy the capital. They've got time. They've got,
and the capital is still expensive today. The interest rates, and you're not hearing as much about it in the news, but if you're following the treasury yields and everything else, you're going to note that there's still an increasingly a higher rate almost every day. And so, that certainly will influence and impact buying and selling.
Well, are they higher? I mean, everyone on this call has been in this business in real estate for more than 10 years, right? So let's go back a little further. 15%, 10%. I mean, capital is more expensive. I agree wholeheartedly that is causing an adjustment. But I would imagine that CPACE is busier than ever because your capital is not increasing.
No, absolutely, because it becomes very competitive, and I always like to say that it's fairly recession proof, in that regard. But I was commenting more toward Rebekah's comment that it is that it accounts for that pause that people are thinking about it. Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. No, and that is a fair statement by all means. I mean, here in the Northeast specifically, we've got brokerage companies laying off, not in the Northeast, nationwide, Compass, Redfin, laying off 8 to 10% of their workforce the last 2 months. We've got investors and technology companies shutting their doors. REALI, not to be confused with Realogy, just shut their doors after raising $100 million. So there's a lot of consolidation and pause. So, and I think that's actually spot on. We, as real estate professionals, can wait. To your point, Becca, we can sit and wait. And while we're sitting here waiting, apparently all the construction guys have finally shown up to work. And I'm only jesting. Part of me believes it's actually that a lot of these projects, and Chris, you may or may not know, at least here, we're waiting on some sort of final piece of financing. And this bridge, this bigger gap between lenders and owners, investors, and this uncertain future helped people kind of push through what they needed to. Like, hey, let me get through what I can. I need to clear my inventory of X, Y, and Z. Did you see an uptick in that area, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I'm noticing is, it was taking a while for, with a lot of the material costs, the shortage, I should say, there was a lot of small pieces of red tape that were kind of in the way for these jobs to start. And then when the materials started coming in, all of a sudden some of those pieces needed to kind of hustle to get those squared away. And I think the pressure now is having all the making sure the municipalities and all those type of entities and banks have all their, kind of ducks in a row. So when the materials come in and the workers can get out there, they can actually start the job and get the job done, because they can't, can't finish a job unless they get out there and actually, start it. And it ends up being a time is of the essence scenario, even down to the day or to the week. Because I just spoke to a contractor earlier today who, they're on the job. There's several subcontractors on the job of the same field, and the guys and the women are out there talking, and they're chatting, and then next thing you know, one of them's leaving one place to go to the other, and it's happening all the time. So all of a sudden, different crews get disrupted a little bit, where they may lose 2 electricians or 2 plumbers, right from a job site right over to another job site. So there's a lot of odd factors in regards to, hey, what's the wage look like? What do the benefits look like? What's it look like on the other side of, is the grass greener over there, so to speak? So and the people who are waiting on these jobs don't necessarily want to hear, well, two of my electricians
didn't show. My crew didn't show.
They work for this company now. Well, first of all, why did they leave? Why, so a company owner is not necessarily going to tell somebody that. So now they're just kind of going, well, how come there's only, we've had 6-7 people on the job. How come I'm only seeing 3 every single day? It's similar to that residential contracting when, a part gets done, the demo gets done, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there going, what happened to my contractor? How come they're not, showing up? And then
you mean it's not like it is on HGTV? I think it's
HGTV,
where they do it in 3 days and it's one after the other. The financing's
one after another,
and
then they just put a big cardboard thing in front of it and just
for sale by owner, and they still make money.
Absolutely.
Just kidding. No, the ones with brokers make money.
There you go. Absolutely.
That's all marketing spin, but we were not going to go there too far.
Yeah.
But so we've got this perception, and Becca, you hit on it, a reputation, right? You've got these developers, these contractors, the industry closing up their belt, right? We're consolidating, we're trimming down, we're focusing on our needs. How do we get through the perception of it all? Is it I'm doing 200 deals, period, and I'm just going to go out there and promote as much as I can, or are people getting silent and focusing on virtual education events, as an example? And Maria, we were talking about that briefly. You mentioned going back in person.
Yes.
Versus education, and you're out there on the street. What are people saying when you're talking?
Well, basically, I've just noticed that in-person events are way up. They are back. And but I've been hearing from people across sectors that some states less so than others. But here in Illinois, we're going strong. I'm probably attending 2 or 3 a day at some point. And in fact, after this, I had an event earlier this afternoon, and after this podcast, I'm on my way to another event this evening, all networking with construction and engineering people. And but I do think that since the COVID era and, and all of the technology and resources available via webcasts and web learning and webinars people doing, I think they're here to stay. Because there's always going to be some component, particularly of education, that people are going to want to access when they have time. For example, there was a podcast I wanted to listen to yesterday, and I didn't have the time when it was being broadcast live. And so, I've kind of put a little tickler on it, and I'm going to go back to it when I have a little bit of time in the car or, doing something mindless at home, like washing dishes or something, where I can just listen to it. So I think the technology is here to stay. It's very important, and it's become an integral part of just all of that which we do. But I am very glad personally to see in-person events coming back, because there's nothing in the real estate industry like going out and talking face to face and shaking hands. That's what it's all about.
It's Bob McComb is a trainer out of California, and he says it. I love the way he says it. Real estate is a contact sport, right? You can never replace getting in there and getting it done. In construction and the like, that's how we grow our businesses. But so what you're highlighting is you have to go back to this event, right? You didn't have time. So are you getting impacted? Is your day impacted now with an extra hour that you have to spend on these sessions that you otherwise weren't there, or is it replacing something else?
No, not replacing. It's just, you kind of, I always go back to what everybody says: find the busiest person and they know how to make time. And that's what I do. I make time. Remember, at one time I was a single mom of 4 kids and working full time, and still today, taking care of elderly parents, and and still having family obligations. I have 4 kids in 4 different states, and so, and with grandchildren in different places, I want that family time. But I have to juggle and balance, and who says that there is no real work-life balance out there, and there isn't. Sometimes one thing takes priority, and then the other thing takes priority next month, whatever. But you have to be flexible. And that's an important, I think, concept in this industry, particularly. Being flexible, being able to be fluid and go with the flow. That's what gets it done. Otherwise, we'd get nothing done.
Ask a busy person to do something, it gets
There you
done.
go.
That's right.
That's what they say.
Just to piggyback off what you're saying, Anna Maria, there's something I'm learning right now, and I think all of us fall in the same boat, is if you were working hard over the past couple of years, which I know all of us were, if you were working hard over the past couple of years and you continue to work and you continue to work and continue to work and just kind of push and persevered, I'm finding that my work now that the in-person stuff is coming back full force, it's becoming a little bit easier for me to do the type of work I want to do and handle the business that I want to handle. And part of it is, since we've been putting that much work in, while things have been so ultimately difficult over the past couple of years, is just, quite frankly, kind of rewarding ourselves a little bit, whether that is figuring out, okay, what events am I really going to go to? Which ones are going to benefit from me being in the room? Which ones am I going to benefit from, but which ones are going to benefit from me, being in that room and dealing with different people, and who's going to appreciate, my, not so much my presence, but who's going to appreciate the fact that, they know we're busy, but we're in that space. And then the other thing was, as far as rewarding ourselves, is kind of going back to basics. Like I'm later on this month, I'm jumping in a productivity seminar, like a 3-day seminar. And I'm like, you know what? I can run around like a chicken with my head cut off now that these in-person events are here and these calls are here.
Yeah.
Or I can take 2.5 to 3 days and go to something that my whole goal of it is to breathe for 3 days, 2.5 days, bring it all in, get back to basics, and also take little tidbits of information that are going to help me deal with, like, we can't say the new normal anymore. You can only say the new normal for so long until it's normal. So I want to take some tidbits of information that bring me right up to where I need to be in this setting now, rather than, and I'm probably going to miss 2 or 3 events over those 3 days. And that's just, I'm like, I need to make the investment in myself and kind of reward myself by, there's going to be networking there too, but reward myself by going back to professional development. And whether that's online in an online setting or whether that's, an in-person setting.
So you're remargining your business, not just from an expense standpoint, but your time. What is my time worth? Where can I spend that time and get the most back? It looks like we've got a comment coming in here. Contractors are starting, and it's for you, Chris. Contractors are starting many jobs, pull workers off jobs, at least show up on time, show up each and every time. So we're not the only ones seeing it. And I'm sure we talk a lot about smaller jobs and larger jobs, government or non-government. This happens whether you're a one-man shop or you've got 100 people there. It's just it's a workforce issue.
Yep.
But back
to somebody's going to see you. Someone's going to see you on the job. Someone who can say something is going to see you.
Chris, I have a question on this, and I don't know if you're seeing this, but I've had some conversations with a couple of my investor owners lately, and they're talking about purposefully identifying and cultivating relationships specifically with construction companies because they want to have something so sticky in a partnership arena that the construction that they feel like they can really count on those construction companies and want to pursue business with those construction companies, as opposed to having, just knowing somebody. They're like, well, maybe if we structure it as a JV, we'll get these projects done. So I don't know. Do you see that in your market too?
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing is this: if you can earmark yourself as being the best in the business, really being a steady company that is going to be there and going to get the job done, there's going to be more of those people that are going to want to build their relationships, with you, and you're going to be able to kind of build out the culture from there, and then the word's going to get around that people want to work for you. And I'm seeing a lot of what you're saying as far as building that relationship. But in building that relationship, some of the best contractors that I've seen have a real sense of making sure that their people in the field have a real thorough understanding of what those workers mean to the community, to the city, and most importantly, to their company. So they're not just out there just doing these type of things. And just first offhand example of this was, a couple of weeks ago, I was up in New Hampshire. I was with my family on vacation. In the resort that we were staying in, right next to it, they are expanding, and they had a couple cranes, and they were doing a bunch of steel erection. And I loved it because it was right by the pool, and it gave me something to kind of watch. So I was like, okay, can't get away from work. Anyway, I still have to answer emails. But we were waiting on a restaurant, and it was just my daughter and I in the morning. It was probably 7:00 in the morning. And they said, well, we need 15 minutes. Can you come back in 15 minutes? I said, yeah, no problem. So my first thought was, there's not much else to do. Let's go outside and let's watch the construction going on for a few minutes. My daughter's 7, and she says, so we're out there. And at first she was kind of bored, but then I said, you see what they're doing? Watch that. They're going to lift it, whatever. They're going to lift the steel. And she said, well, what are they doing? And I said, well, they're building. And she goes, yeah, but what are they building? I said, they're expanding this building. You see right there, it's coming off of this building. And I read something that's going to be done next year. In the elevator, it said it was going to be done next year. And she goes, oh. And she goes, are they going to have a pool? I said, well, there's a pool over here, so they might have a pool. Is there a pool I could swim in next time we come over here that's going to be here? And I said, I don't know. And she says, well, what is going to be here? I said, there's going to be more rooms. I said, well, next time we come, can we stay there? And it clicked to me. That's where that thought came from. It clicked to me where I'm like, do those people that are doing that work, football field away from us, on the other side of that fence, understand the impact that they're making by doing this, where you have a young girl now wondering, what are you doing? Can I stay there? What's going to be there? What's my experience going to be? Now, mind you, she's 7. She's not totally encompassing all of that. But I was just thinking, I'm like, there's a guy up there that's making sure that those beams are locking in. Does he have any idea what he is doing, what that means to this, kind of young mind, let alone the community, the other entities, the company, all that sort of stuff. So I went off a little bit on that, but basically that's the whole thing, that relationship and that stickiness of like, listen, we trust you. We trust you for a reason. You've built a good reputation with us. You've built a good reputation in the industry. Now it's that contractor's job to trickle it down to the people in the field and say, hey, listen, do you truly understand the impact you're making? You know, I mean, when I used to do hardwood floors, I still go buy houses and I sit there and go, I drive by houses, don't buy houses, drive by houses. And I can't help but to point out, oh, I remember doing that. I remember doing this. So I think it's important that people
you're
have
pointing
that
out two things there, right? So what do you do? What did I do today? Am I translating that down to the culture at Inland or wherever you are? Like, what am I doing today? Well, secretary at NASA, 1980, I'm putting someone on the moon.
Yeah.
Or the janitor, right? Like, no, I'm not sweeping up. I'm a part of something. And I think that's important. But what Becca, you pointed out, this kind of priority placement, at least that's what it sounded like to me, priority attendance at my jobs. And we just did the sector interview with Saul, and I'm going, well, maybe I can charge more for priority placement if I'm that contractor. Like, I'm going to have a different tiered pricing. And, I'll show up, you're the critical, and that's just the finance side of it. Wait a minute, maybe that's the next shift for the construction industry. You're double, triple booked. I mean, it would wreak havoc on reputation, I imagine. But if you're not going to show up anyways, maybe that's something that's happening.
Well, you do see it in some of the residential, small residential contractors, not the people I deal with on a daily basis, but people I do talk to, where, talking to a floor guy the other day and, throwing out some, jobs that nobody wanted to do, and him, throwing out some huge dollar amounts.
Numbers.
And they give it to him, and then all of a sudden it's almost in reverse, where all of a sudden it's like, hey, that's it, you're paying me the most, now I'm going out here. But it'd be nice if there was an even spot there where, it's not necessarily you have to put that tier pricing up there, but it's more, hey, listen, if you are going to be my priority person and you are going to be there, then guess what? It's going to, really build your business out, where you're not going to be, hoping to, the next time this happens, you're not going to be trying to clamor to keep your business open. You're going to be good because I'm going to take care of you. For the next
this is pretty selective, but you've got, certain parts of the industry, like retail, there aren't enough cashiers. You have to look for who works here, who can I talk to, or who can I pay? It really becomes pretty problematic in certain sectors where, the workforce has dwindled quite a bit. And, other kinds of service organizations and banks and I know a lot of people are doing online banking and things, but I'm trying to help my elderly parents through a certain stage right now. And I can't get bank personnel to work with. It really is just a different environment out there with the workforce.
Absolutely.
And it is important. One of the things that you said, Chris, and I think Andreas had mentioned it too, but it's important for people who are doing the job to know what they're doing and why they're doing it, and how they do it is very important to what they do. So there are all these questions that they have to ask themselves, and that have to be answered by whom they're working for, in order to really make it a great experience, not only for themselves and their employer, but for, like you said, the community and, and others around.
Well, and if we're focused on stickiness and priority relationships, which, guys, we all know, real estate is a relationship business. I'm going to go to my top 5 first until they shift. But how do you stand out from the competition while reducing your price, while being everywhere? I mean, maybe that's a marketing question.
Well, actually,
Good
Andreas, you
segue.
can't do that.
Well, but you can market it as such.
Right. Well, no. Right. What is it like? You can have 2 out of 3, but you can't have all 3, right?
Fast, easy, and fast,
That's-
good, or cheap in construction to jump over.
So I think that's.
But Anna Maria, you actually brought up a good point there in the tellers disappearing, and it's a good parallel. Even the gas station now. I don't know if you guys are seeing this, but they have an automated teller. Go in and buy everything in the store, so you don't have to deal with a person. You're going to swipe and scan and pay. As more and more of these positions disappear, how do you stand out from that competition? How do you instill urgency and keep that? So
Well, I think what Chris said about trust is so important. And so you have to be the best you can be to be able to instill trust. And, it's as simple as that.
So if we're new to the business, don't bother. It's just but how do you build it from ground up now? I mean, you have a lot of newer faces in the business doing things, especially with CPACE, I imagine. And we have a big generation.
Oh, absolutely.
How are they? There's no getting ahead of the relationship business. So how do you stand out? It's just an open question.
Well, what
You attend the
we do,
roundtable.
so I
That's the
can
answer.
only speak from what we do here at Inland Green Capital. And what we do is we are out there, we are working our relationships, we're making sure that the visibility is there and that we are offering a solid product. We don't, for example, issue term sheets for the sake of issuing term sheets. A lot of people out there are doing that. Oh, I'll get out 10 term sheets this week and maybe I'll get one back and that makes my week. We actually look at every deal individually and we do our due diligence. And so I think you can't skip the work. You have to do the work. And well, let's face it, everybody's looking for an easy way out these days, and if you're not doing the work, it's not going to, and there are a lot of ways to do the work. You have to set a foundation. You have to build on that foundation. And so this is not a thing that a new person can't do. They just have to do it twice as well.
Well, and if they're building it now, that visibility, it shows up. Before you know it, it's another month, and we're back here, and there's more visibility. Or you're out on the space, you're out in your sector, and if you are playing by contact rules, you're out there meeting landlords and meeting your peers at these networking events.
I would say, to touch on that, it is very, very, and this goes right along with it. It's very, very difficult, if not damn near impossible at this point to fake it till you make it in this type of atmosphere, because it's just, to Anna Marie's point, you have to do the work and you have to build the trust. I've said more times than I'd like to admit over the past 7-8 months, probably a year or so, that, hey, I got to get to that. I haven't forgot. I'm going to get to it. It's just, instead of just kind of either ignoring things or just making believe you're doing something that you're not doing. On the other side of that, I personally feel like networking wise, if you're true networker, again, like all of us on this cast, there's never been an easier time to network. If you could find yourself, if you're younger, you can, work on, you can try to connect to someone who's a potential mentor through social media, which obviously, when I say it like that, it makes me sound like I'm 1,000 years old and social media is brand new. But now LinkedIn is like, if you hit the right buttons and everything's already a no, and you just keep going and you get yourself a yes, next thing you know, you can put yourself in a situation where you can just be around some of those people who are the busiest or close to the busiest in the room, and just, kind of feed off that positive energy and kind of see what they're doing. because if you're matching energy with people, people are usually they're usually a little more willing to open up their bag of tricks a little bit and maybe give you something that, it's not going to put you in a space where you're competing, here's my trick, don't use it on me type of thing, but just, hey, this is what works. This is what works. It's worked over and over and over again. If they're smart enough to jump on it, then they're going to use those things so they don't have to try to fake it.
Well, that's mindset and action, right? You've got to have the right mindset and take these actions. And I love the back to basics. We talk about it a lot on the show. We're always rewriting, but always going back to basics. Network is your net worth. As far as Inland not writing proposals they don't intend to fulfill, how could you waste time writing proposals you don't intend to fulfill? That seems counterintuitive, but I agree. People do it. They submit offers in real estate. They call brokers for valuations they don't need. There's a lot of that. So cutting through that noise, doing more with less, and then as this shift continues, it's been very easy the last 2 years to buy, sell, be involved in real estate. I think that's a fair statement across all fronts. In the day-to-day, this is what we're doing. Business is flowing. I got licensed in 2007. I've been through this before. Now we have to get serious about finding the right deals and pursuing those deals. And it sounds like the contractors are well on their way finding the right deals. Marketing is hopefully pushing me more and more deals as usual. And CPACE is out there filling this gap. But is that, and we've already blown through part 2, guys. We're killing it. Is that what you guys are seeing? Rebekah, you've got a question.
I'm sorry. I have.
Yeah.
Okay. I got to be on a panel for NICAR a couple of weeks ago, and it was at NASBAR, which is, so we're the overlay board over the northernmost 14 counties of Northern Illinois. And NASBAR is just the North Shore Barrington Association of Realtors, and it's a fantastic organization with thousands of members. And they did a panel talking to people who are involved in commercial to talk to some residential brokers about what it was like to be involved in commercial. And I had on this panel with me a couple of practitioners and leaders in our market who've been in business, for 50 years, 50. They've been doing this real estate thing in Chicago, completely knowledgeable. One of them was my mentor, Marty Norkett. And I was really excited. Marty actually just started a whole mentoring program. Over the past couple of years, he's just been passionate about it. He's 77. So his heart is to give back and to teach. So we were talking a lot about mentoring, and I loved that Chris mentioned it because it is a chance. This is such a great opportunity to find a mentor and be a mentor. I was asked to participate as a mentor in an organization here in Chicago, and I got to work with an awesome young marketing lady at CBRE last year. I've got a new mentee that I get to work with this year. I'm very excited. It's unbelievably rewarding, and I didn't necessarily think I was so smart or established or knowledgeable. I've just been around for a long time, and because of that, I always forget that means that I do have a degree of expertise in the industry, and I know so many wonderful people that I can introduce a young person to. It's really exciting. Andreas, on this panel, I stole your quote. I took that your network is your net worth.
Network is net worth.
Yes.
Network equals net worth.
Okay, so I used it, and I did go back and I did attribute it to you later on, and so I think they did tape the panel. So I just want you to know, if you ever watch this random learning commercial real estate panel in Illinois with the NICAR Association, that when you hear me say it, I do attribute it to you a little bit later.
I appreciate that. There's nothing new in real estate, right? So I forgot where I first heard it. Maybe I made it up. No, I attribute it to XYZ. I don't know who they are right now, but somewhere, somehow. The mentorship, as you pointed out, and we've all mentored here. And Maria, you're out there educating like full force panels, but does Inland mentor other Are you in a mentor?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so, we have so we have an internal organization that's women, helping women. And so that's just one example, but there are other outside organizations as well in the commercial real estate industry. And I noticed, Becca was chomping at the bit to say something about mentoring, and I was going to say at the same time, I know that both Becca and I are in some of these same organizations and have provided mentorship. I did it especially even more so on a regular basis during the COVID, stay at home era, because people needed connection. And they didn't know what they were doing at home, it was almost like the Home Alone kind of thing. Well, what do I do next? And so yes, it's a very important part, I think, especially for women, especially in the DEI sector, where we tend to help each other more and often. So
the and CRECo, Commercial Real Estate Women. I mean, you guys are, I think you're both members actually. There's so much going on. There's so many ways to get help. I am curious, Rebekah. You said you were on a resi-mercial panel. I'm sorry. You were in a mixed room with residential and commercial, and I said it that way for a reason, not to be rude.
So resi-mercial is actually considered almost a derogatory term.
I know, which is why I
dual practice. Dual practice is the appropriate term to use. And the concept is that here we are, this commercial overlay board with all of this commercial knowledge, and there are residential brokers who aren't adept at commercial real estate deals. They want to understand them. They want to know where the pitfalls are and what kind of deals they should give to someone who is a commercial real estate broker, but they don't know any commercial real estate brokers, because commercial real estate brokers won't talk to residential brokers. So
therein lies the crux of the argument. So
then we have a panel.
And I say that as a commercial broker, and my wife, does residential, she does retail, and in partnership with a residential brokerage, we're seeing more and more of this hybrid model. But I know, at least here in the Northeast, you have to disclose if you haven't done a certain type of deal, minimally, to the client. So are you seeing a shift or more people signing up to be commercial with what's happening in the economy with this? Hey, I can't go. It's no longer going to be easy to do residential. Let me go become a master in commercial in one segment or another. Or was that not the topic? It was just everybody together and how to mentor.
So we talked a lot about whether people want to refer business, partner in business, be mentored in business, because there's all sorts of different structures. And as with anything, it's all negotiable. It's all part of a conversation, but there should be some intentionality behind it. So if you're, if for in that case, like if a residential broker just has a commercial deal that falls into their lap, the best practices is not just to, do it. That is not best practices. Best practice, and it actually violates the Realtor Code of Ethics and things like that. So there's all sorts of pieces to it and nuances.
So talk to your mentor. And if you don't have a mentor, find a mentor.
Find a mentor. And I think that was the point of it, is that we all have networks. We've been in the industry for a really long time, and we like people and we want to help. And I think when we talk about all the connection pieces, like Chris, that's what builds trust. Anna Maria, that's what makes it for a good mentor, right? It all comes together. And actually, since we're talking about trust, the most trusted cybersecurity expert ever is on this call. So I am going to stop talking about resi-mercial real estate and go to Darren.
Darren, welcome. Glad you came.
Oh, thank you. Good to see everyone.
How you're just back from the UK, if I understand correctly, and it's been a busy month in cybersecurity. How are things?
So it's good to be back and good to see everybody.
This month has been rife with news, major attacks, Apple, everything. What? Speaking of trust, I mean, what is the biggest thing on your mind? We're running through the hour here. What's the biggest shift or the biggest thing we're paying attention to on the cybersecurity side? I know you've just arrived back in the U.S., so on this side of the pond.
Well, I know I keep ransomware is still the biggest threat. To give you some perspective, where $20 billion on 37% of businesses, 32% of people pay their percent only get their data back, and of companies were able to succeed using a backup.
32% of people that pay get their data back. So a third.
So so third actually pay the ransom, but 5% of those people actually, and so there's a lot of ransom where you don't
There's no trust.
pay the ransom. Yeah,
no trust and no reputation to worry about. They don't have to commit. They don't have to show up.
Exactly. In case you're in Good Morning America about cybersecurity threats, being pictures of kids and where they're going to school and these kinds of, because one of the
Darren, I'm sorry, your audio is chopping in quite badly. Give me one second to buffer. Can you switch your headset and for me, or just keep going now? Could be a buffering thing, or maybe reconnecting. While you do that, Reagan's going to bring you in and out just to make sure it's working as you reconnect.
Okay.
It was so less than 5% of the people that pay the ransom get their money or get their files back. Terrible. So trust is a big issue there, as I understand it. Darren,
yes.
Let's try you now. There we go. Much better. For the moment.
Good. Okay, so maybe I'll speak. So 32% of ransom, and ransom only 6 people actually get their data back.
So it's only 6% of people that pay get their data back. So don't pay the ransom. Call the FBI or call Darren.
Yes, don't.
It's really the highlight to everyone as we work through the audio issues.
Yes.
But I got away from me. So we were talking, Darren, before you joined. Thank you for joining. We were talking about standing out from the competition, building that reputation, possibly through mentorship, and really remargining both your business from a expense perspective, but your time. Your time is your most valuable asset. And Becca borrowed a quote from me and used it without attributing it to me. But that's what you missed. So while we're getting caught up there, the audio, that urgency, right? And really what I'm hearing is, in all things, how to bulletproof your transaction, your business, your cybersecurity as we grow. So as we move into this next phase of the year, we're getting back to in-person events. We're 10 minutes to the top of the hour. What is the biggest thing from each sector that people should start to focus on to bulletproof their business as we shift into this economic downturn? And Anna Maria, I know it's CPACE first and foremost to get that capital stack.
Always.
But above and beyond that, is it fair to say that I mean, you've done property management, you've done a lot in your time at Inland and overall. Should real estate practitioners be focused on their capital stacks, on making changes now, consolidating now ahead of this turn? Because you were in the business in 2007.
It really all depends. If you've been running lean and clean all along, there's probably not too much you need to do. It all depends on where you started from, and so I really don't have too much of a comment there. It can differ from one company to another. It can differ from one person and how they approach things to another. Because remember, in the real estate industry, there are a lot of individual businesses. Even though you may hang your license with someone, you are your own business, kind of thing. And so, I think it's a different answer for everyone. And are we really getting ahead of anything right now? I think things have, been so tumultuous that it's been kind of difficult to, to ride that wave. And uh, so I really don't know what the answer to that would be.
Well, CPACE is always the first answer. But
It's all go
And
out
it's-
there and do CPACE deals.
and all asset classes, all deal stages, CPACE. Call
Yes.
and find out more information.
Absolutely.
And that's a fair statement. And again, congratulations on winning your Globe Street Women of Influence Award 2022.
Thank you. And I take that as a real compliment, because influence is where I'd like to be. In CPACE, to be an influencer and to be able to get that word out and to be able to educate and help promote on all different levels, that's probably the highest compliment I could have received. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And as Chris pointed out, to culture and being in the workplace, Inland's 4 teachers, right? Started with 4
Yes.
teachers. So talk about culture surviving, persisting, and becoming excellence and showing excellence. That's what you do.
Excellence. That's the key. It's been excellence all along.
Or as you just said, lean and clean.
Yeah. Well, because clean energy, requires it.
Oh, excuse me.
But Inland has also been just as a brand, and Rebekah can talk about that a little bit. But the fact is that they've run a good, solid organization for so many years, and it's because they had those 4 school teachers, helping to found it and lay that great foundation, as I said earlier.
Your network is your net worth, internally and externally.
Yes.
And Chris, coming back to your side of the fence, this priority placement that Becca brought up, I recoined priority placement.
She owes you one anyway.
Yeah, it triggered a flag for me. What happened with the contractors working together with this marketplace of goods to solve the supply problem? Are they still exchanging goods? What is the big focus for this quarter?
Yeah, I would say a little bit, behind the scenes. I know we were talking kind of at the local level where you and I are both located. I'm not seeing as much of it, but I am seeing some different platforms and some different technology, either being dedicated towards, platforms being developed to kind of assist on that, or some of the companies in the construction software space kind of adding elements to it. So I think
barter
that's
materials for those that didn't know early on. How do I barter materials or exchange my goods between contractors because I can't find them?
Yep. And there are some on the other side of things. They are still continuing to do that with labor too. Depending on the situation. And it all depends. You take something like plumbers, for instance, the rate for the plumber is going to basically be the rate for the plumber. It might be a little bit easier versus some of the other trades, and how they go about and how they play in the sandbox. But the contractors understand that you can't just develop a licensed person overnight. So if they're going to get the job done, they might as well get the job done and get it done right, and work together. So I mentioned at the very top about a lot of the contractors I'm talking to are realizing, not all of them by all means, but a lot of them are realizing that they're financially doing better and looking to do better in 2022 than they were in 2021. And I would say the overall, arching reason for that, when I speak to them a little bit deeper, is quite frankly, they've worked harder.
Foundations there.
Yeah, they had to. They started digging in. They started taking jobs they might have not have followed up with in years past. Maybe it was a little bit too small. They took on stuff to keep their tradespeople busy. Um, I mean, the reality of it is the construction costs. I mean, back in May, we were talking about 14%, May to May. By the end of the year, they're talking about like probably closer to 22% higher than it was last year. That's a huge number to deal with. But the thing is, if you there is brighter skies in 2023 and 2024. It's predicted to go up, to come down, maybe stabilize about 2% in 2023 and upwards of 4% in 2024. So if you can take that 20 and 22% hit, it is going to get a little bit easier, hopefully. As we all know, anything can happen at any time, but hopefully these contractors that are working, they keep working hard. Hopefully they're focusing on their local elections coming up in November and figuring out which candidates they want to see move things forward, because a lot of these companies rely on the local scene. They don't necessarily rely on the big governor up top all the time. And then, and the other thing is getting out to those events and just continue to network like we've talked about so much.
Absolutely. So if you made it this far, keep going.
Basically, there's no reason. If you're not going to shut down, if you're not legitimately saying, hey, you know what, I'm done with this, I'm going to shut it down, then what else? What are your other options? Get creative, utilize better marketing, utilize technology, and gain people's trust. All the stuff that we've talked about the last 45 minutes or so.
Yeah. Speaking of gaining trust, Darren, I'm going to ask you. I keep, and this comes back to you, back on the marketing side. I keep seeing Facebook's promotion about how they're spending umpteenth $billion on a security team, and how we must use Facebook, no other platforms, because they're spending all this money to protect us and keep us safe, because they're a trusted platform. You spoke a lot, and we always talk about ransomware, because for those that don't know, it's a big deal. Pay attention. I can't tell you how many people I run into. They're like, how does my phone get infected? Well, you click the link in a text. It happens. But what do you say to the real estate professionals out there, the contractors and such? What should they do dealing with technology, with platforms, finding trust? How do they find trust in what they're using? As Chris pointed out, there's new platforms coming. There's this new exchange. And Becca pointed out early on, reputation. And Maria, as you know, building confidence and educating. How do you know who to trust, technology-wise?
Well, it's just usually we think Facebook has violating privacy, reading about Oracle. We've been putting out a warning about in certain apps, and TikTok could be really, really careful. And so, that trust who are not companies have seen as being violated. It's a real challenge for us.
Is there a place people can go look and check the integrity of software and their vendors? Not their vendors. That's more an association question.
There are a lot of companies that test and allow those apps to be used, and so this is part of mobile, where they give an employee they only use trusted apps that they use. I would just practice pictures that you post at the schools that they go to, listen to the fact of your students use location services turned on, and update the latest for mobile operating system.
So stay updated. I'm going to do it in reverse. Stay updated on your mobile operating systems. Check the app's reputation where you can, because your audio cut out a bit there. And then you mentioned schools. So I lost you there. Chat me, come back, and I'll tell it to the audience. Back as far as here we are, end of the year, second half of the year, we're headed back to in-person events. We're doing a lot of things, reputation, as well as influence, confidence, and mentorship. What can we do on the marketing side? What should we be doing? I mean, where do we go? I'm on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn, to Chris's point, is mushrooming. People are clicking into Ask to Mentor in groups, and I'm getting bombarded. How do we cut through the noise? What should we be doing?
Well, it's like any of these other areas. I think of Anna Maria's comment earlier about putting in the work. You have to work in any element of marketing. You actually have to put in the work to get recognition. You have to put in the work for to be seen, to be noticed, to stand above the crowd. All of those pieces, they actually require a little bit of work. So put in the work. So don't just say, oh, I'm going to troll on LinkedIn. Decide, hey, I'm going to participate. I'm going to I'm going to comment, I'm going to share, I'm going to actually engage with people. I'm going to look up people and learn about them as people, not as sales targets, as human beings, and get to know them as people, not as sales targets, as human beings.
I turn down a lot of invites every week from people. Literally, it's a sales, like, hey, you should use our services. At least mention something that I've said somewhere, something to do with me. Although I'm pretty sure, and Darren can attest this, that that's actually a bot. There are these widgets you
Right?
can get in your Chrome browsers
Totally.
that
Yeah.
automatically reach out to others. So how do you know who's real in that regard? I'll tell you how you know who's real. You attend an in-person event. And with that, we are at the top of the hour here. I want to give a special thank you to my host here and our audience, especially as we head into this Labor Day weekend, holiday weekend. I hope most of the audience is off already, and those that aren't, call me. Let's do a deal. Let's get it. Finish out some transactions. That all being said, as a special thank you, don't forget to attend CRETech New York, October 13th, 12th, and 13th. As an exclusive offer, as an audience member, use CRECo.ai for 20% off. World-class content, exhibitors, networking. Move forward with confidence, I dare say, as you meet with these VCs. I was in that room at that same event back when there were only 80 vendors. There are now 8,000 vendors in this space. Back to trust and different technology. Go follow the money. It's true. Don't forget to download our show anywhere you get your audio: Apple Podcast, Alexa, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, Pandora, or simply ask your Alexa to tune into the CRECo.ai Roundtable with Andreas and Senie. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where there's a host of great content, including sector interviews and past shows, as well as do share, rate, and review us. It really does help. Thank you again. Don't miss next month's roundtable, and on the 16th, the sector interview with Keith Lampy, Inland Private Capital, as we start to talk more and more securities and otherwise. And for those that did miss it, Saul Klein and I had a great discussion on how Realtor.com really came to the paradigm shift of it all. And Zillow, for those that don't know, did not get its brokerage license to become a broker. They got their brokerage license to get data from the MLS. You'll have to tune in to hear the rest of it. Guys, have a great Labor Day. The audience, thank you.
Enjoy.
Doza, will you lead us out?